Why K-pop labels are working with novelists and poets. Something quietly significant is happening inside K-pop album packages. Tucked between photo cards and lyric booklets, fans are now finding short stories written by acclaimed novelists, poetic passages crafted by best-selling poets, and narrative prologues authored by some of Korea's most respected literary voices. What once seemed like an unexpected creative detour has become one of the most talked about trends in the industry, and it shows no signs of slowing down. K-pop has always been a visually and sonically rich genre. Groups invest heavily in choreography, styling, music video production, and concept development. But something changed as the genre matured. It was no longer enough to deliver great music and polished visuals. Audiences, particularly the deeply invested, globally connected fanbases that K-pop cultivates, wanted more depth, more meaning, more world. They wanted a story they could live inside. That desire opened the door for a creative partnership that nobody would have predicted a decade ago: K-pop labels and Korean literary professionals joining forces to build narrative universes that stretch far beyond the music itself. EXO is among the most prominent examples of this shift. When the group released its 8th studio album, REVERXE, in January 2025, it came with something unusual, a short story titled, X Vision, written by novelist Lee Hee-joo. Lee is no casual collaborator. Her fiction, including works that frequently explore K-pop fan culture, made her an ideal voice to translate EXO's layered mythology into prose. The story wove together everyday moments among the members with deep references to symbols that have defined EXO's universe over the years: the Tree of Life, the Red Force, the imagery of a full lunar eclipse. It was fan service in the most literary sense, a gift that treated the audience as readers, not just listeners. Monari, who leads SM Entertainment's Culture Universe Development Unit, explained the thinking behind the collaboration. The word, reverse, the conceptual anchor of REVERXE, was tied to the idea of a new turning point in EXO's ongoing universe. The decision to bring in a novelist allowed the label to take that concept and translate it into something tangible and emotionally resonant, compiling years of narrative history into a form that could be held, read, and revisited. It was not a promotional gimmick. It was world-building with literary intention. EXO was not the first group to think this way, and they certainly are not the last. The trend stretches back several years and spans multiple labels and genres within the broader K-pop landscape. Girl group IVE collaborated with novelist Chung Se-rang for its IVE Summer project in 2022. Chung, whose novel The School Nurse Files was adapted into a Netflix series, wrote narration that the members read aloud in a teaser video celebrating their friendship. The clip accumulated over 1.5 million views, demonstrating that fans responded warmly to the literary touch. Chung later explained that she accepted the project because she was genuinely a fan of IVE and K-pop, a detail that matters, because it speaks to the authenticity that makes these collaborations work. Writers are not being hired simply to attach a famous name to a product. They are being chosen because they understand the culture. That same year, HYBE and its group Le Sserafim commissioned science fiction writer Kim Cho-yeop to write the prologue for their mini-album Antifragile. Kim, known for her award-winning collection of speculative fiction, created a story called Crimson Heart that placed the 5 Le Sserafim members inside a fictional city called Refugia, a world where magic has been removed. Safety comes at the cost of freedom, and adventure waits beyond the city walls. The story captured the album's central theme of fearlessness directly, and Kim later revealed that the concept reminded her of animated adventures she loved as a child. The collaboration gave the album a narrative spine that reinforced everything the music was trying to say. Poet Cha Jung-eun was brought into the world of Red Velvet member Joy, writing a short poetic passage to accompany teaser imagery for Joy's mini-album From Joy, with Love. Cha became a best-selling author as a teenager and gained renewed attention with her poetry collection released last year. Pairing her work with an album visual created a moment that felt genuinely literary, a piece of writing that existed not as marketing copy but as a standalone creative contribution to an album's emotional landscape. Rookie girl group KiiiKiii has perhaps gone furthest in integrating literary collaboration into their identity from the very beginning. Before the group released a single song, they invited novelist Lee Sulla, who writes under the pen name Isra, to write lyrics for their debut album. Lee then contributed a new short story, Running in a Dress, which was published on the group's official website to coincide with their EP Delulu Pack in early 2025. Writing about the piece publicly, Lee described how the group gave her an unusual writing prompt centered on the idea of a princess party, and how the story that emerged surprised even her, expanding outward from the group itself into reflections on herself and her own friendships. She invited readers to approach it as a fairy tale, a short story, or even an adventurous personal essay. The fluidity of that framing reflects something important about why these collaborations work. They resist simple categorization, and so do the fans who receive them. Music critic Lee Hee-joo, one of the most frequently quoted analysts on this subject, offers a clear explanation for why labels are moving in this direction. K-pop groups increasingly want to build and expand their storytelling universes, but the idols themselves are operating under intense schedules that leave little room for developing complex, sustained narratives. Reality shows, live streams, and fan-facing content fill much of the creative space around a group, but these formats are primarily entertaining rather than world-building. Literary collaborations fill a gap. They provide a space to develop depth, mythology, and long-term narrative continuity in ways that a 3-minute music video simply cannot. The concept of lore in K-pop, the interconnected fictional universes that some groups build across multiple albums, music videos, and supplementary materials, has become one of the most powerful tools for sustaining a fandom's engagement over time. Groups like EXO introduced this approach early, presenting their members as beings from a fantastical mythology, and fans spent years decoding clues hidden in lyrics, visuals, and album packaging. As the genre has evolved, so has the sophistication of these universes, and novelists and poets are now being recognized as the natural professionals to help shape and extend them. There is also a commercial logic to the partnership that goes beyond storytelling. Having a best-selling author's name attached to an album creates a layer of cultural legitimacy that can attract attention from people who might not otherwise engage with K-pop at all. Non-fans, literary readers, and cultural commentators who follow the work of Kim Cho-yeop or Chung Se-rang may find their curiosity about the groups those writers chose to collaborate with genuinely piqued. The album becomes worth examining on multiple levels, not just as music but as a cultural artifact with a literary dimension. Professors and industry analysts studying the Korean creative economy have noted that physical album sales benefit from this added value, because the album package becomes something richer and more compelling as an object to own. The benefit flows in both directions. Korean literature, despite producing some genuinely world-class fiction and poetry, has historically struggled to find international audiences at the scale that Korean music and film have achieved. K-pop's global reach is extraordinary. It reliably produces artists who sell out stadiums across North America, Europe, and Asia, and whose fanbases are deeply active on every major social platform on Earth. When a novelist's name appears inside an album that millions of fans around the world are unwrapping, reading, and discussing online, the exposure is significant. Korean literature reaches people in Tokyo, Sao Paulo, London, and Los Angeles who may then seek out that writer's other work. It is a form of cultural export that serves both industries simultaneously. What makes this trend particularly interesting is the genuine creative respect at its center. These are not ghostwritten marketing materials designed to look literary. They are real works, written by writers who engage with the groups, their concepts, and their audiences seriously. Lee Sulla writing about a princess party and discovering something personal in the process. Kim Cho-yeop finding in Le Sserafim's concept an echo of the animated adventures she loved as a girl. Chung Se-rang accepting a collaboration simply because she is a fan. The creative energy is authentic, and fans can feel the difference. K-pop has always been a genre defined by its willingness to absorb and integrate influences from every direction. It borrowed training systems, visual language, fandom infrastructure, and musical production techniques and made them into something distinctly its own. Now it is doing the same with literature. The genre is expanding its definition of what an album can be, not just a collection of songs but a world, a mythology, a story that keeps unfolding. Novelists and poets are not supplementary additions to that world. They are becoming essential architects of it.